Okay, let's jump right in. The world right now feels, well, chaotic, doesn't it? It feels unpredictable, maybe even a little dangerous. But what if there's a pattern to all this madness? Today, we're going to break down a framework from the investor and historian Ray Dalio that helps explain these huge shifts in global power, what he calls the big cycle. And look, this isn't just some theory from a book. At the recent Munich Security Conference, you had leaders from all over the world basically saying the post-World War II era is officially over. We're talking the German chancellor, the French president, top US officials. They're all on the record saying the old rules are gone. We're in a new game now, a new era of great power competition. In Dalio's framework, this is what he calls Stage 6, a period of great disorder. And it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's a time when all the established rules start to fray, international institutions lose their authority, and conflicts between nations really start to heat up. We're moving into a phase where, frankly, might starts to make right. So, what makes the global stage so different? I mean, what governs how countries deal with each other when there's no world government, no global 911 to call? Dalio makes a really key distinction here. Think about it. Inside a country, you've got an internal order. There are laws, police, courts. If you break the rules, there are predictable consequences. But between countries, that's the external order. And that, he argues, is a totally different beast. It's governed by raw power, a lot more like the law of the jungle. And this is exactly why organizations like the United Nations can feel so toothless sometimes. When the really powerful countries, the US, China, have a major beef, they don't go to a judge and plead their case. No way. They negotiate, they threaten, they flex their muscles, and in the end, power wins out over procedure. So, how do we get to that point? Well, conflicts between big powers don't just explode out of nowhere. They tend to climb through a series of pretty predictable stages. Dalio calls this the escalation ladder. It's a great visual. Countries don't just leap to shooting at each other. They climb the rungs. First, they fight it out with trade and economics. Then it moves to technology wars. Then it gets geopolitical, fights over influence and territory. Then they start using capital as a weapon, with sanctions and freezes. Each step is a power struggle designed to weaken the other guy without firing a shot. But with each step up that ladder, the world gets closer to the final one, a hot war. Now, to see how this cycle plays out for real, let's look at the clearest, most dramatic example we have, the lead up to World War II. And honestly, the parallels to today are what make this so important to get our heads around. You see, this story doesn't start on a battlefield. It starts on the stock market. The 1929 crash set off a brutal global depression, and all that economic pain created intense fights over money and wealth inside countries all over the world, which paved the way for radical, nationalistic leaders to seize power. I mean, just look at Germany, 25% unemployment. Think about that. 1 in every 4 workers had no job. People were desperate. That kind of extreme economic pain is fertile ground for extremism because people lose faith in the system and start looking for a strongman to fix things. And that's exactly what happened. Hitler comes to power and he puts in place these autocratic, militaristic policies that, from a purely economic view, worked. He directed huge government spending, rebuilt the military, and in just 5 years, unemployment went from that catastrophic 25% to basically zero. And that success is what cemented his absolute power. The system he built was fascism. Let's break that down. It's autocratic, right? So it's top-down rule. It's capitalist in that private companies still exist, but the government is telling them what to do to meet national goals. And it's collectivist, which means the good of the state, the whole, is way more important than the rights of any single person. And Germany wasn't some isolated case. Half a world away, Japan was in a really similar crisis. As an island nation, they had to export stuff to pay for the essentials they had to import, like oil. When the Depression made their exports collapse, by half, they faced total economic ruin. And their response? The same playbook, a sharp turn to aggressive militarism to go out and seize the resources they needed by force. This brings us back to one of the most important rules in this whole cycle. Remember this: economic war comes before hot war. The Allied powers, especially the US, they didn't just sit back and watch. They started using their own massive economic power as a weapon. This slide just plays out the whole toolkit so perfectly. The US started with tariffs. Then it escalated to freezing all of Japan's money held in America. But the knockout blow was the oil embargo. That cut off 80% of Japan's oil supply. It basically backed Japan into a corner where they felt they had only two choices: give up on their ambitions or attack. We all know which one they chose. Okay, this history it's heavy stuff, but Dalio argues it's not just a warning, it's a playbook. By understanding these timeless patterns, maybe, just maybe, we can navigate the challenges we're facing in our own time of disorder a little better. So, what does it take to get through a period like this? Because whoever wins these conflicts, they're the ones who get to write the rules for the new world order that comes next. The stakes really couldn't be any higher. Dalio lays out a few key principles for these dangerous times. Two of the biggest are, first, you have to try to see things through your adversary's eyes. You have to understand them if you want to find a win-win solution. And second, you have to redefine what winning even means. It's not about totally destroying your enemy. Winning is about getting your most vital goals met without losing what's most important to you in some stupid, self-destructive fight. The goal is to be strong, yes, but also incredibly wise. And this is why this whole framework matters so much right now. Dalio pinpoints the single most dangerous moment in the cycle. It's when a rising power, like China, starts to get close to the strength of the existing dominant power, like the United States. If you have comparable strength and differences you can't seem to solve peacefully, the risk of a real military conflict becomes dangerously high. You know, this cycle of rising empires, of peace giving way to war before a new order is born, it's repeated over and over for 500 years. And that leaves us with the ultimate question for our time. Knowing the pattern, seeing the road ahead, can we be the generation that finally navigates it differently?